Hello, boys and girls, and praise Jesus. My name is Teacher Patrick, and I want to welcome you to our Saturday Bible Club. Imagine, boys and girls, today I'm going to read for you a Bible story from the book of Genesis, chapter 1. It's called The Creation Story. I am using the Moran Publishers Bible Story book, and this is a wonderful book for parents and you wonderful boys and girls to read the Bible stories that are found in the Bible. And this is the Creation Story level 2. And so we are going to read what happened on day 6 and day 7. That is what God created on day 6 and day 7. So let's read. God creates the first man. Sounds of different animals filled the air. The laughing of hyenas and the chirping of birds came from every end. Zebras moved around, eating grass. One could hear the barking of a dog or see a chameleon changing its color on a tree. God looked around and was pleased with his work. It was good. God looked around and saw that whatever he had planned had turned out exactly like he wanted. The moment he had been waiting for had come. The reason he had created all the other things was finally here. I hope he will enjoy himself with all this beauty. God thought to himself. Then he spoke and said, "Let us make man in our own image and likeness, that he may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds of the air, and all creatures that move on the ground." God decided that he would not make man like the other animals. He would create man in his own image and likeness. That would make man a special creation. Man would be different from all the other creations. God was going to touch man with his own hands and mold him into his own image. God then molded clay from the ground to create man. God molded the round head, the oval face, and the strong body. He put ears, a mouth, a nose, and a lovely pair of eyes. God had made a perfect man from the ground. He was in perfect form. Man was in the image of God. This made man a superior creature to all the other creatures God had created in the 6 days. Then God gave man wonderful gifts. Man could see, speak, and hear. He could also think for himself and remember things. Man was able to love God and worship God. Finally, God's masterpiece was complete. He lay there, wonderful and delicate, silent as a statue, awaiting the gift of life. God breathed into the nostrils of man, and man became a living soul. Then man awoke and looked up to his loving Creator. Then he breathed in his first air. Then God blessed man and said, "Be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and control it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the air, and every living creature moving on earth." Let us imagine what Adam might have thought or said when he looked around. Adam stood up and looked around. He saw the home that would be his and marveled at its beauty. He looked at the rays of the sun for the first time and felt its warmth on his skin. He watched the birds and animals and listened to the strange sounds they made. He smelled the sweet scent of the flowers and touched the soil on the ground for the first time. Then the first man walked around freely. He was not afraid of the animals that followed him around, and no animal was afraid of him. As he walked, he became hungry. He looked at the ripe fruits hanging from the trees. He saw the purple grapes, the red berries, the yellow bananas. Could this be food? He wondered. Then man heard God's voice telling him, "Behold, I have given you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the earth and every tree that has fruit in it. That will be your food." The man looked around. All those fruits were his food. He marveled at God. God then planted a garden in the east for Adam to live in. It was called Eden. God then took man and placed him in the beautiful Garden of Eden. Because he loved man, God wanted him to live in a nice place. Therefore, God made all kinds of trees to grow in the garden. Trees that were very beautiful and pleasing to the eye. Trees that were good for food. However, in the middle of the garden, there was a tree which man was not allowed to eat from. Man became friends with the other creation. The lions, crocodiles, and other wild animals were his friends, and they all lived peacefully. He was the caretaker of God's creation. He moved in the Garden of Eden and enjoyed himself. He ate fruits that God had allowed him to eat and played with the animals. Then God looked back at the things he had created in the 6 days, from the earth and sky to man. He saw that it was very good. The whole world was now beautiful. There are no better words to describe it. The home of man was not a palace. It did not have things like cookers, refrigerators, or electricity. Nor did it have roofs. It was a natural home with all types of trees and plants. The floor was from the soft and fragrant earth, covered with soft green moss. The roof was the branches of the beautiful tall trees and the endless blue sky. It was such a unique home. In the background, you could hear sweet music from birds in the trees. When the seventh day came, God decided to take a rest. Everything he had created was perfect. On this day, he would not do any kind of work. The earth and the heaven were complete as they were. On this day, every creature would rest from any kind of work. This would become a lasting sign between God and all of his creation. This day was a very important day for God. On this day, every creature he had made in the 6 days would acknowledge him as a creator. On this day, everyone would rest and worship him. Every man was to rest from any kind of work. Instead, he would worship God and sing songs of praise to the Creator. God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on that day he had rested from work. Every man would worship God on every seventh day of his life. God called the man he had created Adam. He lived in the beautiful Garden of Eden with other creatures. God loved Adam and he wanted him to be happy. All kinds of trees grew in the garden. They were very beautiful and pleasing to the eye. Adam ate all the other fruits but did not eat the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden. God had warned him against eating from the tree. God was happy with Adam and he came down every day to see how he was doing in the garden. Then God said, "It is not good for man to live alone." So he took some soil from the ground and formed all the animals and all the birds. He then brought them to Adam to see what names he would give them. The name Adam gave each living creature became its name to date. So Adam gave names to all livestock. He gave names to all the birds of the air. He gave names to all the wild animals. Every animal had a partner of its kind. The rooster had a hen cackling on its side. The bear too had a she-bear by its side. It was the same for all the animals. Not one of them was alone. See you next week for another Bible story.